again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on that.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and it is the Holly and Steve show, as I've been told to say from now on, because I've got no arguments, Holly, to be fair. I'll have to get John to change it on the flyer. But welcome to you, Holly. Great to see you. And as the dark rain clouds hover over Tyneside, it's got a bit of a doom and gloom feeling about it already, hasn't it? We haven't even kicked the ball in anger yet.
I know. Well, I suppose it's just in reflection of our transfer window.
Yeah, I think you're right. Plenty to talk about, as always. 7 days gone since we last sat here on a Monday night and talked about Newcastle United. And we've been on the road, haven't we? We've been to a couple of games in the last 7 days. And yeah, I mean, what's your overall feeling about our pre-season? One more game to go, of course. Norwich City at home on Saturday. But what's your overall feeling about the pre-season so far, Holly?
I'm pretty indifferent about it, to be honest. I think it could have been better, it could have been worse. We've had a couple of games where you think, my God, I can't believe we've played like that. But I haven't got too caught up on it because it is just pre-season. And then the last game against Burton, we looked pretty decent. Of course, it's not a fair comparison because it is a League One side, which we've got to remember. But I think the Norwich game will certainly show us, I think, how we're going to go into the next season. But we've got to remember as well, we've relied a lot on youth as well. It hasn't really been a first team. Of course, we've had COVID problems and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think we've been okay, to be honest. I think it could have been a lot worse, and we've certainly had worse pre-seasons.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, from my perspective, pre-season, like Mick Lowes has said at the weekend, it's there really to blow the cobwebs out, to get fitness up, etc. And, nothing can be read too much into pre-season. And, of course, the main game is when, we face West Ham at St James's Park in 2 weeks' time. So, as long as we get a result in that game, nobody will be too bothered about what happened in pre-season. But Jacob Murphy's been good. Obviously, the goalkeeping situation's been a bit of a nightmare with regards to Dan Langley having to play a couple of games, and obviously Woodman being back in the nets now is something which some people will be happy about, other people would be concerned about. But I think obviously the whole pre-season has been one of interest for me because we've had to play without Willock, of course. Willock was on loan at Newcastle United and did so well. The midfield, I know it's probably going to drive people up the wall, but Hendrick's been playing the majority of the games. Obviously, Shelby's not available for selection at the minute. So it's been interesting. Really impressed with Murphy. I've got to be perfectly honest. And I just think, nothing's changed up front. Probably more annoyed with anything that, the Bruce seems to think we're okay up front. It's a position which we all know we're going to struggle in if Callum Wilson gets injured. And that is my biggest concern. We don't seem to have learned from the last couple of seasons, and not having a strike partner for Wilson is one thing, but not actually having any cover if he gets injured, which his stats tell you he does get injured quite a bit, is a big concern going into the new season.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm hoping that in terms of the partnership, Ryan Fraser syncs up well with him, and that works for the new season, because that, of course, is the potential that it's about all we've got to kind of run with at the moment. So you're hoping that they kind of link up well into the new season. But that has been a problem for years now, a backup striker, because we just haven't had one. And you're relying on probably Dwight Gale as number 2, and he's championship quality. And we've said this for years now. So we clearly haven't learned from our mistakes. Midfield's just as bad. If we don't sign Joe Willock, then the midfield is just, it's not Premier League quality either. And that's the problem. It then puts pressure onto the defence because the midfield aren't doing their role, which just makes it 10 times harder. And the goalkeeper situation, of course, I'm hoping that, your likes of your Dubravkas and your Darlos are going to be back for the new season, because Langley, for me, yes, he's still young, but he doesn't really do anything for me personally. I can't see him having a future in the first team anytime soon, that's for sure. And Woodman, I haven't seen a great deal of him. Obviously, we're watching him in the friendlies. I don't think it was anything amazing, and I don't think he actually fits in well with that team, and I don't think he's got a good connection to the fans either. So to be honest, I'd be quite happy to let him go.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny, wasn't it, when we were at the friendly the other night, the fans singing Woodman, give us a wave. He didn't really wave. He's sticking his thumb up like that. It was funny. But yeah, I mean, he's clearly clearly somebody who's had his run-ins with a manager, I think, is probably the best way to describe Woodman. And if he's not being made to feel wanted, then, the likelihood of him wanting to stay, is something which probably has a lot of fans, questioning whether he is loyal to the club. I mean, I've seen something in the Chronicle tonight stating that he's looking forward to his unexpected chance. But we'll watch the goalkeeping scenario with interest. Good evening to John from Q-Tech, still in hospital but on the mend. Get well soon, John. Good to see you in the chat there tonight, mate. And everyone, pleased that your recovery is slow, but it's happening, mate, which is good. And Tom Lynch, love this message. He says, evening everyone, I'm currently turning back the clock by playing the 1991 database on Football Manager, a time when Newcastle United was a mess of a club, lacking ambition and going nowhere. How things change. You had the irony in that, Tom, and the fact that I've had to live through both of these is probably even more annoying for me and you, mate, to be perfectly honest. Okay, let's change tact a little bit and move subjects, and something that Holly sent me today. I hadn't seen this, but obviously this is a quote from Callum Wilson in the Evening Chronicle, and he says, I think Graham Jones coming in as a coach in January definitely complimented the manager because he's a little bit more tactically aware and up to date, whereas the manager has his different strengths and attributes. When you see the results towards the back end of the season and the way we were in games, we had more of a style and philosophy. That will happen from the start of the season with a good coach around to help out the previous coaches. So, Holly, what did you make of that?
I think it's the politest possible way of saying Steve Bruce is a shit manager. That's basically what it is. I can't believe of all people, Callum Wilson was the one to say it. I mean, good on him for speaking the truth, but I just didn't expect it to come from him. But it backs up what we've thought for the whole 2 years he's been here. Well, the third season coming up. He's just, we all know that he doesn't have a tactical game plan. He's not really someone that kind of works on style of play. He's just he has a football, play a game kind of manager, which is very behind the times. It doesn't work anymore. Maybe it worked in the 80s and stuff, but that's long gone now, and he just hasn't moved on with the game, unfortunately for him. Graham Jones, of course, getting a lot of praise again, much to Bruce's annoyance, I could imagine, but we all know that. I mean, Graham Jones, you see when he came back for that Burton friendly, we just played a little bit better. Our corners are better. We're just a more organised team. Everything just works so much better when Graham Jones is there. He was certainly a big miss for the few games when he was on holiday, so I'm glad he's back.
Yeah, me too. Evening, Nathan. Good to see you, mate. Hopefully get you on a match day live at some point. I mean, the whole thing with Steve Bruce is obviously going to run and run, isn't it? I mean, he's not a popular choice when he came in. Of course, nobody would be replacing the previous manager. However, it has to be said that he's just come in and done his job to the best of his ability with very little financial support. I mean, the first time that he came in, of course, the decision had already been made to spend 40 million on Joe Linton. We've spoken about that many times on the show, but it does look as if he's been hung out to dry in this particular window, not being given any money at all, really, and obviously had to get a few off the wage bill to potentially do some business. We're being linked with various players. Pointless even talking about them because a lot of it's just paper talk. We just want to see players getting in and coming across the line, and just got to hope and pray that they're better than some of the rubbish that we've had to let go in the summer. So, the worry is that we've let a few go, and it's a weakened squad, whether those players were any good or not in numbers, if nothing else. So yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, what does Steve Bruce actually do if he is no good at coaching? What does he do? Is he a good man manager? Well, I would say he probably isn't, because we all know that he had fallouts with at least 4 players last season who really didn't come back, under the club umbrella, if you like, until Graham Jones arrived at the club. So if you're not a good man manager and you're not a good coach, what is Steve Bruce actually doing at Newcastle United, Holly?
Probably he's just cooking bacon sarnies, to be fair. That's what he talks about in his press conferences. So I think he's just getting a massively high wage for being a chef by the sounds of it. But yeah, I don't see what he adds to Newcastle, in all seriousness. I think the first season, it was probably a little bit easier for him because the players would have still kind of been under Rafa Benitez's kind of tactics, I think it's fair to say, and they still would have had that kind of well-drilled kind of in the defence especially, we were still pretty solid. But then obviously after a year of him gone, it was a year into Steve Bruce, he started to change things up. It didn't go well. Obviously, we're in that relegation battle. Graham Jones came in, saved the day, thankfully, and I'm just pleased that we're going into the new season with him as well, because I think that fills me with a lot more confidence about staying up. But it is frustrating that Bruce is basically just sitting there, more of like just an interference, because I could imagine if Graham Jones was on the touchline, he'd be doing a hell of a lot more than Bruce, who half the time you don't even see him say 5 words even throughout the whole 90 minutes. He just kind of stands there and, well, I don't even know what he does, just looks.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? It's strange. And I mean, Graham Jones, of course, was back on Friday night down at Burton. Holly had her eyes peeled. I didn't see him, but he was there, and it was subsequently backed up by the local media after that. But I mean, he definitely has made a difference, but he's a coach who can, obviously dictate, how our season, starts. And that is the key, really, having a good start to the season. But yeah, Steve Bruce, I guess, the one thing he does do is not upset Mike Ashley, which is probably the key. He's a yes man. He'll say what he has to say to stay in the job, and I guess until the time comes that we either have a takeover of some description, or there is a poor run and heads roll. We're stuck with Steve Bruce. We've just got to accept it. So it's pointless getting on his back. And I mean, down at Burton, Rotherham as well, a lot of fans turned against Steve Bruce. It has to be said. But there was a bizarre moment when, on our right-hand side, the fans were getting at Bruce, and on the left-hand side, people were, telling Brucey to give him a wave. So it's not. It has to be said. It's not all supporters. There's a lot of supporters want to see Bruce out, but I guess the big thing is, who are we going to get in? Because nobody wanted the job, Holly. Originally, he was 11th choice.
Yeah, this is the problem, and that's why I don't really get on his back too much at games. Of course, sometimes, you do join in with the chants and stuff, and I do want him gone, but realistically, if he was to leave now, who's going to come in? There's no one that's going to want that job that's of any quality. So it'd either get someone on the same level as Bruce or worse, because I don't think, a lot of people saying, oh, we'll give it to Graham Jones, but I don't think Graham Jones wants to be a manager. He's a coach, not a manager, so I just don't think that'd be fair on him. So to be honest, I think, like you said, we're just stuck with him. We've got to accept that and make the best of it, because nothing's going to change, and just rely on the fact that obviously Graham Jones is going to be there to sort the tactics out, and just hope like we can stay up and there's no more fallouts like last season, because that was what caused the problems for me when there's all the upset off the pitch.
Yeah, I would agree. It's look, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of months. The start of the season's imperative. That will dictate how people respond to Bruce. And I think from our perspective, we've just got to wait and see. But we will be covering it on NUFC Matters, of course. And Nathan says, when we did the shows earlier in the season, I poured cold water on the notion that Bruce was a good manager. Look how it's panned out. How many players has he gone on to alienate? Which is very true, mate. And Trolls, good evening, says Wilson gave us full info on what Bruce is like as a manager. Yeah, of course, we did hear from Graham Jones when he came to Newcastle. And I remember that line about healing the rifts, I think he said as well, which I think went a long way to describing what had happened, certainly with the Longstaffs in that period. Jeff says, have we got a Graham Jones song? No. Don't ask me to make them up. But I'm sure there'll be lots of people who've got them. Tom Lynch seems to be quite good with songs. And the Premier League's Corrupt took off at the weekend. Not quite the one that Tom will come up with, but you never know. What are our thoughts on St. Maximin's mystery illness? You would put money on it being COVID, I think. Again, people have relapses, etc. But I don't think it's anything to do with him, wanting to leave the club or anything like that. I think it's clearly an illness. I doubt we'll ever hear what it is unless he comes out and says this is what it is. But the press, I'm sure, have asked the question, but you're not allowed to divulge people's medical records when you're asking those kinds of questions. So it'll be up to him to say what he's got if indeed he wants to do that. Kenny Ranson, good evening. He says, what do you both think of the new reports that Hoffman may be involved in money laundering? Monzo. My mate's got a Monzo account. Doesn't use it to keep all his money in. He just uses it to transfer a little bit in, I think. And when we go out for a meal or a beer, I know he uses that card to save taking his main card out. But yeah, I've seen the reports about that, and wow, I mean, it's just more evidence. You feel like it's another silver bullet. And I mean, I've made my point quite clear. I'm putting our takeover at the back of my mind now. I just genuinely can't see how it can progress. But again, doesn't surprise me to see Hoffman in the news for the wrong reasons again, Holly.
Not surprising at all. It just kind of shows the corruption that goes on, that they're just very, very dodgy people that abuse their position of power. And that can only be a positive thing for us, because we want to prove that, the Premier League aren't really fit and proper. And if he ends up being guilty with that, then I think that'll obviously help us out massively in this situation. But it's just, you couldn't write it. Honestly, there's another twist and another turn in the whole Premier League thing, and it just feels like it's going to go on forever. It literally feels like a reality TV show at this point, and I just hope that we can just get some sort of answer for us. I think we do need to put it to the back of our minds for now, but you see news like that come out and you think, how are they allowed to just get away with everything that they're getting away with? It's honestly a joke, and you're looking for someone, i.e. the government, to come in and intervene, but it's clear that they're not going to do that, which is probably the most frustrating part for me. But yeah, you've just got to let everything go on in the background, things like that. You think, yeah, well, that can help us out, but just ultimately kind of leave it to the legal, because it's out of our control at the moment.
Yeah, it is, and from our perspective, we don't know too much about that. Obviously, it's an allegation at the moment with Monzo, but yeah, when you hear stuff like that, it's it just raises your eyebrows again. And from our perspective, it's just so sad to hear that's just the takeover, I guess, Holly. First time we've spoken since last Monday, but it's just disheartening, isn't it? That things keep getting put back, and I think most people, now I just put it at the back of your mind. If it happens, it happens. Are you in the same place?
Yeah, you've got to be at this point now, because all you're doing is, when you're trying to constantly keep up with news and get updates, it literally just puts you in a bad mood, because it's so frustrating because nothing's happening. You can't do anything about it, and obviously it's all confidential. The Premier League won't release any information. Everyone's saying no comments, so you're literally just kept in the dark, and we have been for a long time now. So it's best to just let people crack on, do what they need to do in the background. Then if we get some news and the takeover goes through, that'll be brilliant. But at the same time, I think a lot of fans need to get into their head that, and this isn't me being negative, and obviously, like I said, I don't know anything, but if it doesn't happen, then at least we won't get as disheartened by it, because we won't be as fixated on it, and just try to make the best of the upcoming season, which I know is hard because it's so grim to look forward to.
Yeah, it is. I mean, people are talking about protests again. West Ham game has been mentioned. I mean, obviously nothing where, in particular that we're involved in this time round. Obviously, we went down to London with others a few weeks back. But yeah, I mean, I've seen it publicly put out there on Twitter. I gave it a retweet. It sounds like another peaceful protest being planned by Tune for Change and others. But yeah, I mean, home protests for me don't seem to pick up the same kind of momentum, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it's down to the fact that a lot of people choose Twitter as an option to promote these things, and feel as if there's going to be lots of people do it when they go out on Twitter and do that. But that's not the case. I've said this for a long time, and I'm a stalwart with these things against the club, and have done things over the years. You've got to do the groundwork, and if you're going to do a protest, you need to first do it properly and professionally, and contact the council, contact the police, and make sure people are aware of that. The club, so the club can obviously prepare as well for that. But then on top of that, it needs fans to be notified. And I keep saying this, and the people on Twitter are such a small reflection of the fan base. There's 52,000 fans who go to the game aren't on Twitter. Not everyone's on Twitter. Older generation aren't on Twitter. You've got to leaflet these people. You've got to go to social clubs and bars, probably places that you wouldn't even drink in yourself. You've got to get on the radio. You've got to get on TV. You've got to get in the newspapers. You've got to build up momentum and get people behind it. In the cases of a lot of things, maybe you can get a website, because some people will be on the internet, but they won't be on social media. It's a lot of hard work, and there's no quick fix and no easy way of organising a protest. And I saw that again, and I thought, another protest. And if I'm thinking that, somebody who A, wants the takeover, and B, would like Ashley out the club, would like to see a takeover bring us a lot of money to spend, not just on the team, but also on the ground, but also a new manager. For me, I just feel, it's almost, for want of a better expression, pissing in the wind, because, you're going to end up with a situation where, a minimum amount of people will protest and it just dies a death. And this part of me feels singing against Ashley's no good. We've been down that road before. I've been involved in protests against Ashley before. He says he wants to sell the club. He seems to have been making big efforts to do that. But the flip side of it is, well, if we're saying get out of our club and protesting, well, he is trying to get out of the club. It's a difficult one. This is the most difficult period, I think, for any Newcastle fans, certainly older ones who've been here, been there, done and got the T-shirt with protests. For the younger generation, I feel it's probably, they're starting to feel it now. They've only ever, those people who've only known, like yourself, who only ever known the Ashley era. They feel enough is enough. We need to do this. So I'm never going to discourage things, but at the same time, I'm not going to encourage it. I'm happy to support on, with a retweet and stuff. But this seems to be like a new group who are keen to get out there and do something. What's your thoughts? I mean, you're a completely different generation to me, Holly. What's your thoughts?
I think even in my lifetime, there's been countless protests, especially at home. You've seen them kind of in the Leazes stand, like where the Milburn stand is as well. You've seen them on Barrack Road, outside the Strawberry Pub. There's been many, many home protests, and they all seem to gather very little kind of attention. You'll see a few people before the game that'll be chanting and stuff, but it just doesn't gather the type of weight that you'd need, because ideally you'd probably want at least half of the capacity of St James's Park at a home protest, which could be done with the right planning, but it's just really difficult to do that. And I think the problem that we've got at the moment is people are kind of confused about what we're even protesting against anymore, because we had obviously the Ashley Out protests, which have gone on for years and years and years. That's not really what we're doing anymore, but some people still try to bring that into it. It's really pointless protesting against Ashley, because yes, we should be on his back because we need money, we need to make signings because he's putting us in a damaging situation. But saying get out of our club, he's trying to get out and he's trapped, unfortunately, for him and us. It's just a mess, a really big mess. So obviously we need to get on the Premier League's back, but then it's St James's Park. Is it really going to get any attention? It's one of them where you just think you don't know what to do for the best. And I think anyone that's trying to do something for the future of the club deserves some recognition for that. They deserve some praise for that. And I hope it does go well, and I hope they do get some attention. But with the situation we're in now, I just think in terms of the takeover, no matter kind of what we do, we've just got to wait till the cat case starts running, and then we can see how that goes before we protest any further. But at the moment, I don't think there's a great deal of point in it. And I can totally understand the frustrations, because we're so close yet so far, and we constantly get like put further and further back, and it is a nightmare for Newcastle fans. It really, really is. But just, I hope it does go well. I think from my perspective, the best thing to probably do is not like anything crazy like pitch invasions and stuff like that, but to sing anti-Premier League chants in the ground, especially when we've got the games on the likes of Sky Sports, because they'd have no choice but to cover that, because it would be heard in the background of the game. So I think that's maybe the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, any suggestion of doing that, pitch invasions, etc., it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. For starters, anyone who thinks about doing that, you're going to get your season ticket taken off you. You're going to get arrested. You could get a criminal record. You could get banned from St James's Park for life, which, I guess with the way things are at the moment, some people would, mockingly go, well, that's great. But it's not fun. It's not something you would want to do. Certainly not something we would endorse. So, let's hope that the people who do this, not against protest, but please, don't think about doing anything stupid, because it doesn't just reflect badly on you, it reflects badly on the whole fan base. And I know some people will say dressing up as a vicar did, but that's not violent. That's people's opinion about doing that. But if something like that's going to annoy people, imagine what people running on the pitch did. It's not the 1980s. and late 90s, early 90s, which we saw, pitch invasions and stuff. And, at the end of every season, people used to run on the pitch. It's a different era now. And we don't need to see that. So there are plenty of ways that you can make your points, loud and clear. And, just have a think about it if that is going through anybody's mind. Keith says, my suspicion is Solskjaer's the same as Bruce, clueless, but has good coaches who manage the team. I wouldn't disagree with that. Jeff as well, he says, the horror scenario is that Jones does the formation and tactics, but Bruce picks the players. Interesting. Alan says, Stephen Ollie, Bruce on 1 million a year, Rafa on 6 million a year. Ashley won by 8 million. If you believe Ashley paid Sheffield Wednesday 3 million, win Ashley. The only person who wins in all of this scenario is Mike Ashley. I'm afraid you are right. Lock Steve Bruce in his office, says Jeff. It's a bit radical, but I see where you're coming from. Richard says, why don't we just sell Gale? He never hardly has a start. We could get £10 million for him towards another striker. Yeah, I mean, Ollie, we did discuss this on Friday night, didn't we? Dwight Gale's song, Dwight Gale always score goals. I mean, we were saying it should be changed to Dwight Gale never scores goals, because it is true. I mean, he doesn't play many games, and those games he does, a lot of times he doesn't seem too interested, does he?
No, he doesn't. I don't think he's got a future at the club. I don't think he has done really since the 17-18 season when we first came back up from the Championship, because he's just a Championship striker. He's a great Championship striker, but there's such a big difference between the Championship and the Premier League that he just can't cut it, even at the bottom, even in a relegation kind of side. Well, granted, it's hard for any striker on Newcastle side, to be fair, because they don't get the service. And you see even top quality strikers that probably wouldn't get a great deal of goals on this side, because it is really, really hard with the type of football we play. And we're so defensive. Most of the time we're playing in the middle of the park. We never actually get in the opposition's box. So it is hard for Dwight Gill, and I'm not going to knock that, but he's not good enough for this club. And obviously, I think we should have maybe sold him to West Brom, but then we were asking too much money. I'd be willing to just kind of take a little bit less and get him gone, because we've got no money to work with at the moment. We're the only club that hasn't signed anyone, and we need signings. So even if you got 10 million, like was mentioned in the comments, then I'd be more than happy with that, and it would be put more to use, because Dwight Gale's just going to sit on the bench and not really do a great deal. I could understand why the club gave him a new contract, because at that point it looked like we may have been going down. Of course, that'd be a great person to have on the side if we did go to the Championship to get back up. But he got given a long-term contract again. He should have only had a year maximum. So now we're kind of stuck with him, and I don't see anyone that's going to want to sign him. So maybe even if we could loan him out just to get him off the wage bill.
Yeah, good idea. Be interesting to see what happens with him. Big shout out to our sponsor, Spider VPN. Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of your Google search for all your internet security. Protect your passwords, your photographs, everything on your computer at home. Google Spider VPN. They are the boys to trust. Skipsandbins.com as well, another main sponsor. All of these guys staying on for another month. Thank you very much. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay as you go waste collection. Somebody said I shouldn't say www, but I enjoy saying it. Also a big shout out to qtechshop.co.uk. John, get well soon, lad. The makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle, and of course the guy who runs our website. He's been doing it from his hospital bed with COVID, but thanks for that, John. NUFCmatters.com. Plenty of t-shirts up for grabs, including our very, very new range, which of course includes the Ryan Taylor Over the Wall t-shirt, and of course the London's Calling selection with the likes of Bobby Lee and Les Ferdinand on just £15 in package and postage. And if you're a fan of the Fab Four, you can also get a Fab Four hoodie and t-shirt as well from NUFCmatters.com. Also a big shout out to John from Jab Signature, the man who does all of our posters and flyers. Big shout out to you, John. Thanks for everything you've done. First time visitor to the channel, please subscribe. Hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right hand corner, and that's it. You can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week, and of course there is other content on the channel. A great interview with Kelly Maloney the boxing manager and promoter. Of course, the manager of Lennox Lewis back in the day. Great interview with Kelly. If you want to find that, just type in Kelly Maloney in the playlist. Hit the thumb up to like the video, and that does us a big favour. Click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments to talk to like-minded Newcastle United fans. Always a good banter in the chat. And if you want to ask a question, we'll try and get to your question at some point. The food bank bucket is still in operation as well. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. It's a virtual bucket. Drop yourself into there and put in whatever you can afford, and you can still enter into the raffle, because that watch is up for grabs. It is a one-off, lovely watch. And once the pool night is rearranged, you will possibly win that watch. We will keep you up to date on that. And Christmas due, there will be an announcement on Friday about that. We'll let you know as soon as I have the details, but that will be coming up very soon. I know a lot of you are eagerly anticipating that. We are looking to do it in September. Because, of course, we'll have our own Christmas do this year. So this is actually last year's Christmas do. So dig your Christmas jumpers out, and we will be announcing when we're doing it at the Irish Centre. We're going to have to replace Lee Clark, though, because Lee looks as if he's going to have a new job and not be coming home. So we will persevere, still have the Christmas do, but there will be another Newcastle United former player attending. So we will announce that on Friday. Events coming up, of course, me and Supermac, August the 19th at the Farmhouse Kitchen. Tickets still on sale from those guys, £10. And if you want to come and see me and Liam Kennedy this week, you still got time to buy tickets from www.bobix.com. I think there's plenty of people from the NUFC Matters fan base coming along. So get yourself along to meet me and Liam. All proceeds are, of course, in aid of Newcastle's food bank. And some boxing fans out there might have seen on my social media, finally announced this one. Eubank and Ben together for the first time on stage, fought each other in the ring, of course, but the best in British, Eubank and Ben, October the 17th, which is a Sunday, 12 noon at the Lancastrian Suite. Tickets are on sale now at www.newcastlelegends.com. And looking forward to that one as well. Okay, let's talk strips, and we've discussed the home strip on previous shows, Holly, but we haven't talked about the new away strip because it's only just been announced. So what did you make of that when you saw it? We saw a couple of people wearing them at the match on Friday night. What's your take on that?
When I first saw the rumoured kits, which was quite similar to that one, it did look like plain, like there was no like stripy pattern on, and I preferred it plain. So I'm not sure what I make of the kind of stripy pattern. It's a bit odd. It's a bit like a zebra pattern. So I don't know if that was supposed to link up with the takeover and didn't happen. But yeah, I do like it. But loads of people are saying they absolutely love it. I don't think I'm going to get it, to be honest. It's all right, but I don't know. I like the colour on it, but it's just the pattern. I don't know. Maybe it's one of them ones that'll grow on us, because there's a lot of shirts like that where I look at them first and I think, nah, I don't like that. But a couple of months down the line, I might like it. What do you think of it?
I don't mind it. I've almost been, phased out of buying tops, and that's not an age thing. It's just having like the styles, having like the colours, having like the actual shirts themselves. I've got to be honest. I do quite like this range. I like the colour. I think it's nice. I agree on the whole pattern thing, but that's just standard now. But yeah, I like black. Any black strip and any grey strips, silver strips, I think are perfect for a Newcastle away top. So yeah, look, I give them both 7 out of 10, the home and the away. I think, with the sponsors, I think a lot of people think that the sponsor would be better than maybe they would like it more. But yeah, look, it's open to everybody's personal opinion. But I've seen worse. Let's just put it that way. Marty says, Steve, can you tell me, do you need to be double jabbed to get into St James's Park? Not due my next one for 2 months. No, you don't, but obviously don't rule out the government changing things. There was talk of a COVID passport and, essentially, you haven't approved that you'd had 2 jabs. But at this moment in time, the answer is no. You do not have to do that. So, just keep a check, I guess, on what the club announced. Keith says he fears another season of struggle. I think most of us do. Yano says he'd like to see Gale used in swap with Fulham or West Brom. Both of those teams have players that would improve us. It was quite interesting because the retro show that we do on a Wednesday. This week we're doing a combined one of Swansea and Cardiff, and as regular viewers will know, and those who watch the retro show, what we tend to do with the guys is we always pick players who've played for both teams, and it was quite amazing, Holly, from my perspective, to see how many players we'd actually picked up from Swansea in recent times. And I think that shows, a lot about Ashley's business. That some of these players were probably, at their peak when they were playing for Swansea in the Championship, and then when they got promoted. But, they ended up at Newcastle, and it's crazy, isn't it, when you think about where we were, back in the 90s, Newcastle United, top of the Premier League, signing, the best players from around Europe and in the UK, signing Shearer. It's 25 years ago since we signed Alan Shearer for a record 15 million. Then we're signing Tino Asprilla, one of the best players from Colombia. Then we're signing David Ginola, one of the precocious talents from France. Whereas, in more recent times, we're left scraping the barrel, taking Swansea's reject.
Yeah, we are. Well, that's the sad thing, is I wouldn't even have a problem with us taking players from those teams that are around us, but we actually don't even do that anymore. We target players that are either in the division below us or that are worse than us in the Premier League. And I think that's the market that we kind of are shopping in, the Championship kind of market, especially with Steve Bruce, because that's the type of players that he does like. He likes bringing back players that he had at one of his Championship clubs years ago, or we'll bring back an ex-Newcastle player that played for us and was good about 10 years ago. It's just, it's not the best model by any kind of stretch of the imagination. But that's kind of all we've got to put up with. So I'd rather us just go for loans, because I've said this many a time, I don't want us to sign these cheap players that end up just kind of sitting on the bench, not really doing anything, blocking up the squad numbers, blocking up the wage bill, and just kind of just sitting on the bench and never getting a game, because it's just a waste of time. So I'd rather get loans, and loans you can either work out or they can't. We've had some fantastic loans, certainly in recent times. We've also had some poor ones, but that's certainly the type of market I'd be shopping in. And I think the best place for us to look is abroad, personally, because you do tend to get cheaper players abroad that'll fit our wage bill.
Yeah, lots of people talking about potential protests and stopping the football till we get action. Dennis, I just can't see that working at all. It'll just get us fined. Do we need to be losing? Yeah, and you can guarantee, if that kind of thing happens, Newcastle will lose points. If it was the Big Six, they wouldn't. It would be a fine, a pitiful fine. We've already seen what pitiful fine they got when they tried to leave the league and join the European Super League. But guarantee, if it was Newcastle, it would be deducted 10 points or something. So nothing something we could endorse. Surely not. And I'd like to think most Newcastle fans would be the same. Billy says, I can feel a new T-shirt soon. Retro 80s. Holly says, relax. Very good. Funko Freddy says, howdy chaps, nice to see money laundering being mentioned yesterday. Ooh, how the Premier League never seems to run out of surprises, and those connected with it, Funko, I guess. Darren Cowan says, don't think it's right, but the only way to get noticed is the way Chelsea fans did after the ESL saga, blocked the bus and game was delayed. Again, I don't think it's right. Yeah, Darren, same mindset as me. I know where you're coming from. Chris says, hate to say it, but we're stuck with Ashley. I'm on the edge of supporting a non-league club, giving them my money. The only one winning here is Ashley. He's got £17 million deposit and he's not spending it. Again, I can't argue with that. Blue Moon Boy, Bruce's hands are tied, as for every manager who worked under Ashley, but a better manager could get more out of the squad, especially with Jones' assistant. Bruce also has a habit of saying the wrong things. He does, doesn't he, Holly?
Yeah, I've never known a manager be so bad with words, especially in interviews and stuff like that. You think, it's honestly, you switch it on, you think, oh, what's he going to say this week to embarrass himself?
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that he comes out with is just crazy, I mean, I heard that interview that he did the other night where he was laughing at the fact that we'd started off slow, against Rotherham, and I'm thinking there's nothing even funny about that, but it's, so it could be nerves, I don't know, it's just bizarre, it just, if you've not got anything sensible to say, don't say anything at all, is probably the best way, but it's too late to teach him. He's been in the game over 20 years, as he keeps telling everybody. Keith Longworth says, is it right that Gale has been given a 3-year contract? Yes, it is. Why? Nobody knows. Bede says, reports today we've had a £10 million bid for Marseille midfielder Boubacar Diarra. Again, Bede, we go down this road every pre-season under Ashley. We get linked with everybody. The player we all want's Willock, I guess, and that seems to be getting further and further away. Steve Bruce is already trying to dampen fans' expectations in press conferences and interviews by saying, we can't wait forever. We can't, obviously, but Willock was involved last night as well, or yesterday for Arsenal, I believe. So, that is a problem. Yano says we're not going to sign anyone until we have an answer on Willock. Yeah, I would agree. And I guess there's a game of bartering going on between the two. I think if Woodman had been available to go, maybe that would have been the bartering tool. But the fact that we've got a goalkeeping issue means that we can't barter with another player, and that's an issue because that's a player that Arsenal want. Rachel says, has anyone who emailed Tracy Couch, the Fab-led review, receive an email from Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport? I got one today. Same old, nothing to do with them comment. Yeah, I've seen a few kicking about on the internet. So yeah, I think maybe it's just a standard reply. Keeping some holidays back for the Christmas do, Julie. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to be in September. I'm just going to clarify what date we're going to do it, but look, 100%. We will be doing it. Dave Avery says the away shirt, and this is something which I've seen on numerous occasions, On a Dead Planet by Joy Division, which is an album cover. We'll probably cover that on the Fab 4 on Friday. But I've seen that comparison. Tom Lynch says away shirt is far superior to the home one, which is rotten. Would you agree, Holly?
I prefer the home one, but I always do because they normally do crazy designs for the aways and the thirds, whereas I just like your classic black and white stripes.
Yeah, lots of people like the away shirt. At least there's not a 4 on the front, says Lily. How is our away top £65? Yet Wolves, who are also sponsored by Astoria, charge £50. That's again. I don't know is the answer to that, Holly, but it is a bit unfair, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think we've got one of the best kind of shirt sales. Maybe not so much in the past few years, but certainly over the past 10 years, we've probably got one of the best shirt sales, so they can get away with charging more. Unfortunately, it's not fair, but that's what they do.
Alan suggests we all dress up as Arabs. I've gone down the Vicar Road. If I dress up as an Arab, I'm sure I'll get absolutely hammered. Alan, you might want to lead this one. Show the Premier League we want this takeover now. Quiet protest, Stephen Holly. It'll get worldwide attention. Alan, I'm certainly not disagreeing with your idea, mate. Things like that do get attention, but we also get a lot of flack. Everyone's open. Everyone can put in suggestions, and maybe that's one to chuck the protesters' way. I think it would look better with gold name and numbers on the back, not white, says Yano. About the strip, which is fair enough. NUFC are shopping in the relegation aisle, says Jeff. Again, cannot disagree with you. John Brown says, let's be honest, we've struggled pretty much every season and been in some sort of relegation battle since Ashley took over. So why are people worried again this season? Surely you're used to it now. We are used to it, aren't we, Holly? But should we be getting used to it? I mean, is it something where we should just think, oh well, this is us, this is our lot? Would hope not.
Absolutely not. And people say that, especially about kind of the slightly older generation, they're like, well, they're living in the 90s and stuff like that. But that's not the case for me, clearly, because I wasn't actually around in the 90s. And I just don't think it's acceptable whatsoever. Because you look at Newcastle, it doesn't take a genius. You come for one visit, you look around the type of support we have, and you look into the history a bit, and you just think there's no way we should be floating around the bottom end of the Premier League and worrying about relegation every season. It's an absolute farce. It's not on. And yes, we have to worry about this every season, but every season it gets more and more of a worry because you can't carry on like this forever. You can't stay up forever by not investing and the players not coming up to scratch. It won't work. And there will come a day if we carry on like this where we will go down and we won't come back up. And I've said this for a long time.
Yeah, John says in his opinion, just do the deal. Suffer the consequences. What's the worst can happen? Relegation. According to most fans, that's a given already. At least we'll get media coverage this way. You talked about the takeover, of course, but unfortunately, I don't think that's something the PIF would do. They want to come in. They want to come in the front door, want to wave the flags and say they bought the club, and I think any other way is just a non-starter. But look, we'll wait and see what happens in September, into September. Hopefully something could be resurrected, but I'm not putting any money on that. Life Goals says, hi Holly, hi Steve, you're both full of wisdom. I heard on the grapevine that Villa are hoping to sign Ward Prowse and Cantwell. Shows their ambition. Yeah, there are teams spending money. I think that's probably the one thing we picked up on the terraces, that people are just sick, aren't they, that everybody else is buying and we're not, Holly.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. You look around at all these teams and they're spending money, and we've got more money than some of the teams that are spending, and yet we can't do anything. And we're not asking a great deal because I guarantee you, if we signed Willock and maybe got a couple of loans in, everyone would be happy. Even if we just got Willock, I think people would be complaining a hell of a lot less. And we're not asking, people say we're like unrealistic and stuff like this, but we just literally asking for like one signing and a few loans. It's not a great deal to ask of, and it's certainly not out of the realms of possibility.
No, definitely not. Tom, Steve, is the pool event still going ahead? No, it's not, mate. There was an announcement made by Steve Hasty on social media yesterday. I'm pretty sure that anyone who was shown an interest in coming knows that John is in hospital, and it's John who is organising it and running the event. So, no, it's not. There will be a new date announced in due course, though. So please spread the word. The pool competition is not happening this week. The 24-hour pool night is not happening for the food bank. It is going to be rearranged, and I'm pretty sure that the food bank will be putting something out as well. But I will tell Steve Hasty to do it again, just in case anyone has missed that news and information. Richard Morris says, can Sean Longstaff find some form and establish himself once again? What have you made of him in the pre-season, Holly?
I think he's been fairly average. I don't think he's been anything special. And against the calibre of teams that they're playing, if he looks average then I think that kind of just shows where he's about. I don't think he's been horrendous, but I just think he's someone that he's all right to bring off the bench. I wouldn't see him starting games personally. And I just think he had a real chance to be a good player when he first came into the side. He looked very promising. He got that injury, and I just don't think he's really been the same player again. I don't think he's got the type of confidence, and I don't think he's one of the favourites of Steve Bruce's, which keeps him out the side.
I'm laughing at that from Billy Gadders. We could all dress up as Muppets because that's how Ashley sees us, Steve. Billy, that's a classic. In fact, if you tweeted that could have been tweet of the week, mate. You wasted that in here. But thanks for making us laugh. It's nice to have a laugh on this show, even if it is our own expense. Beat says, why don't we all wear Masters masks and protest in favour of the takeover on Sky Sports? That would get the recognition it deserves. Again, things like that are, if you could get more people to do it, that's something you could do on TV, no doubt about it. What else? Problem is that the opposition are not standing still, just with regards to this coming season. Life goes as trying to force Arsenal to take Dubravka in exchange for Willock. He's on the decline and becoming injury prone. Two very good English keepers at the club. Woodman, number one, offer a 5-year deal. Wow, that's controversial. Life goals. I would keep Dubravka. I'm not sure that Woodman's committed to Newcastle. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think he particularly has much time for the manager or head coach, Steve Bruce. I would keep Dubravka, I'm afraid. I would get rid of Woodman. What about you, Holly?
Yeah, I totally disagree with the Life Goals comments. I mean, Dubravka's my favourite player at the club because I think he does so much work in terms of not even just, saving all the goals that he's actually paid to do, but just keeping the team organised, getting on people's backs. You see him constantly shouting out orders, and he fits in really, really well with that team. I think he's the one player that you can always rely on to put a good shift in, and the amount of times he saved us, we probably would have been relegated before if it wasn't to Martin Dubravka. So, yes, he's got a couple of injuries lately, but I still think he's an outstanding goalkeeper, and I'd certainly be keeping him as number one.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing him back in goal, I've got to be honest. Let Stephen Holly manage Newcastle for a season, says John Morton. You never know. Stranger things have happened. Hello, Stephen Holly. Sorry to say this, but it's time to move on from Willock. There's no point in getting another loan with an option to buy him. It is dragging on, isn't it, Holly? But again, I've said from day one, this transfer window won't really start hopping up until the big players start moving, the Kanes and the Grealishes, and then money gets spread out, amongst the big guns, and then it starts to move. And I think we've already discussed on the Fab Four as well. Steve Hasty in particular has said that different accounting month. You don't have to pay the players. Our business doesn't start till August. And we've heard Steve Bruce say the same, that we have to wait until the big boys do their business.
Yeah, we have done, and Newcastle's always a side that does their business last minute. We like doing stuff on deadline day as well, so I think there's a chance he could come in last minute, but like you say, it does seem less and less likely to happen the more it drags out.
Yeah, Tom says, do you think Matty Longstaff should be given a chance this season, Holly?
Yeah, I'd like to see him given a chance. I think he came into the side, he made an instant impact. Unfortunately, I think he's had a fallout with Bruce and various other people by the sounds of it, which kept him out of the side. But the midfield's, like I've constantly said, is somewhere where we lack quality massively. And I don't think there's anyone better than Matty Longstaff, to be honest, which is like horrendous when you think of it. But I'd love to see him given a go and do well. And it's another local player. And I'm a big fan of having local players on the side because I think when it comes down to it and win the relegation battle, those are the players that step up.
Alan Thompson says it's been devastating here that Steve Bruce has got a rolling contract. Can the news get any worse? Luke Edwards says Bruce has still got 3 years forever until Ashley sacks him. I mean, yeah, that was strange, wasn't it? The contract rumours that he was going to get offered a new contract, but then it turns out he's just got a rolling contract, so he's here until Ashley gets shot of him.
Yeah, it's certainly not what you want to hear, but it wouldn't surprise us if he stayed on until the club gets sold because, like we've said, there's no one that's going to come in that's going to do a better job.
Yeah, exactly. Masters, masks, and top psyops. What on earth's that, Jeff? I've got no idea. Wish this with this club dragging on is a motto under Ashley. Yep, I would agree. Where do you think Harry Kane will go? Man City for me, Tom. I can't see anybody else coming close. I don't think he wants to go abroad. I think his intentions are quite clear. He wants to break Alan Shearer's record in the Premier League, but he also wants to win something. Hence the reason he's leaving Tottenham. Would you agree, Man City, Holly, or do you think he might end up somewhere else?
Yeah, I think he'll go to Man City. I think he's been very, very kind of appalling not turning up to pre-season training and stuff though and just saying I'm not coming back. I think that shows a bit of like arrogance on his behalf and I wasn't a fan of the way he acted there, but hopefully he goes to Man City and then he's more happy.
Yeah, I know that's a bit cruel. Dubravka, Newcastle's top scorer at the Euros. Dave Harrison says, I doubt we will make any signings. God, I hope you're wrong, Dave, and I hope you've had a good week at the archery. Watched a little bit of that on the Olympics as well. Richard Morris, Joe Linton looked like a new signing Friday night. I did say that, but then got to remember we were playing Burton. But he put himself about, didn't he? And obviously it was a bit cooler than it was at York, so he didn't go off with heat stroke or whatever it was he went off with. Mark Henderson says the big downfall for Steve Bruce is he's not media savvy, where Rafa was. Rafa knew what he was doing. I mean, he's not media savvy. We've talked about that a little bit earlier, didn't we, Ollie? But he isn't media savvy.
No, he's not. I don't know what he does because he's not football savvy either.
Yeah, Chris Down, we did cover that at the start of the programme, so if you're catching up, you'll probably be hearing that now. Mark Henderson says, looking forward to seeing you Thursday, Steve, even bringing the wife. I've got no luck. And Mark, looking forward to it, mate. Should be a cracking evening. Holly's going along as well. Steve Hasty will be there, so there'll be a few of us there. Looking forward to seeing you and chewing the Newcastle United fact. Jeff says, military operations usually aimed at influence the enemy's state of mind through non-combative means. Thanks for seeing what you meant there. So that's with the Masters masks on, Jeff. I've got you now. Life Goal says, but does the rolling deal mean he can be sacked on a whim? Maybe Bruce is just the right manager for this awful time. Matches the club's mediocre ambitions. I mean, it's what we've said. We don't really know. Who on earth would take the club at this particular time? You need some kind of end on this takeover, and if it's not going to happen, we need to learn to live with each other. You either don't go until we get a new owner, or you go and you go with a mindset of supporting the team and just hoping for the best. I think that's where we're at now. Let's look at what Kevin Phillips said today. Not that I pay particular attention to a former SMB, but he was saying that St James's Park is not going to be the cauldron of hate, and it'll be easier to play there with less fans. I mean, has he got a point, Holly?
Yeah, I think the fans being in St James's Park makes it a lot harder for the opposition. I think they're the 12th man sometimes on the pitch. If we're like 0-0 and there's a few minutes left, the fans are normally the ones to get behind the players, and then we end up scoring a late minute winner or something like that. They make a massive impact. And I think even when we had like the 45,000 or whatever a couple of seasons ago when the fans didn't show up, I think even that made a massive impact. It wasn't half the atmosphere as when we've got a full house.
No, definitely not. Martin says, bring back Adam Armstrong. Get rid of Gale. Would you bring Adam Armstrong back? Again, we've talked about it on the show before. I don't think he's good enough.
No, I don't want to bring back any ex-players, and certainly not ones that don't have any Prem experience and are just more Championship players.
Better than Gale, potentially. I just don't know. But yeah, look, if he's fit and he's capable, I guess. But it's an interesting one. he's going to be better than Gale. Obviously, Muto, I guess, who's departing now. But yeah, Mark says he's got the autograph frame now, Holly. Do you know what that is?
Not the clue.
All right, okay. Thanks for lifting the spirits, guys, says John. John, come on, son. You can get out that hospital, mate. You can do it. You're in the right place at the moment, and it was great to hear from you today. Hearing that you are, on the mend slightly, so that's good news. Alan Thompson, when fans just expect rubbish bottom half table and Ashley's won, and brainwashed fans to believe in that is your lot. Ambition starts at the top. Alan, couldn't agree more. Mitch has talked about it on the Fab Four for weeks, for months, even when it was the three amigos, and even going back to Instagram when it was me and Mitch on a Friday. But he's told you that fans are being brainwashed. We're being brainwashed into mediocrity by Mike Ashley. And we've also been divided as a fan base by Mike Ashley. So, it's been a horrendous time to be a Newcastle United supporter. Life Goals says, Joe Linton isn't a bad player. He's technically good on the ball. And with Wilson, he looks decent. But he's so poor in front of goal. Tragically, he's one of the only players with any quality on the ball. Get Pedro and Jones in charge. That would be exciting, says John Justice Allen. I don't disagree. I just don't see Peter Beardsley ever being given a chance at Newcastle. Certainly not under the owners where he left the club. I'd love to see Peter back at the club. I think he's a club legend. I just think under this particular owner that will not happen. John Brown says, Ashley isn't gone. Look for new owners until PIF are dead in the water. Once it is, we can then move on and see how serious he is about selling the club. Good point. Are you going to receive new season tickets pre-West Ham? Yes, Roger. My understanding is that we will be getting new season tickets. So I would imagine they'll have the Castoria logo on as well, which is what tends to happen when you get new strip sponsors. But as always, things are taking their time from the ticket office. I believe they're still pretty much on a skeleton staff up there. So, I would imagine that if you haven't got it by the time it comes to the weekend, maybe just give them a call on Monday. But of course, we've got Norwich on Saturday. It might even be possible for you to move up to, pop into the ticket office if you're up for that game on Saturday and just check. Trulls, all we can do is get behind the players and tell Bruce what we mean about his managerial ways. Very polite. Do you think we have a good chance of beating West Ham on the first day of the season? Tough game, Holly, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to back us for a win. I think there's no reason why we can't. You've got to go in with the mentality that we can win. Otherwise, what's the point in even going?
Yeah, Mark says, the thought of starting a season with Callum Wilson and Dwight Gale is scary, as Wilson is injury prone. I don't think you play Dwight Gale. I think you play Hendrick, and that's more scary for me. Dave Harrison says, at least the club are communicating with the fans, just like Charlie said. And the autograph is from the trip down to London on the bus. You were signing autographs on the bus.
Well, one person was like, "Oh, can I have your autograph so I can sell it for loads of money?" And I thought he was joking, but he's actually being serious. So I signed an autograph. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Lily, yes. Dog and Parrot, 12 o'clock Saturday. That is the plan. Hoping to get Malcolm along to do a talk-in. Obviously, it's a 2 o'clock kickoff, so 12 o'clock until 1:30. Catch us at the Dog and Parrot. I'll certainly be there. And I'm hoping that Malcolm will be able to join us too. Sure, Steve Hasty and that might pop in as well. But get yourself along to Dog and Parrot, 12 o'clock on Saturday pre-match. On the 19th of July, Hoffman knew about this Monzo. This is one reason the Premier League delayed arbitration of 22, says Kirk. Not heard that, but thanks for the update. Keith says, thanks, Stephen Holly, great show. Holly, who are your five favourite players you've ever seen play for the club? Says Life Goals.
Ben Arthur, Cisse, Denver Bar. I'm going to throw Martin Dubravka in, and I'm probably going to go. I don't know. Fifth one's really hard. That was very on the spot. I might go Colaccini. I saw a bit of him.
Okay.
Oh, no, Gutierrez. I'm changing it to Gutierrez.
Jonas. All right, we're still Argentinian. Alan Thompson, I hope Harry Kane gets stuck in the Spurs reserves, he says, for 4 years, so he doesn't beat Shearer's record. Now, that would be funny. And Teoti, says Trulls, chucking one into your favourite. We will be doing a Dream Team special with Holly and George. That is the plan. So keep peeled. You've had a little taster there for free. But there will be a Dream Team special. And we thought we'd get our oldest contributor and our youngest contributor on the channel to do their teams on a joint show. So looking forward to that. Holly, as always, the clock has beaten us. Looking forward to seeing you on Thursday night at the Liam Kennedy Talk-In. But for now, Holly, thanks very much. Take care, and we'll see you next Monday.
See you then. Bye.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna